Welcome into the Thursday edition of the Super Bowl Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Will, joined by Tyler Shivers. Tyler, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, dude. That first intro was so peaceful. I wasn't expecting it.
Yeah, I figured I'd avoid the awkwardness of us usually being like, oh, is it live on Facebook? So what I did, big brain move by me, I've learned by now, is I had that first intro playing and I changed the Facebook audience to public, and then I played the second one. So
Smart.
the people don't know it seemed a little bit smoother, so I figured I'd give that a try. But
So now they do know it because you just told them.
yeah. Well, I wanted to explain it, so because you were probably like, "What the hell is he doing?" Like he said, I'm sitting there just doing this like for 2 minutes. But yeah, Tyler, how you doing?
Good. Excited to talk about a little football. We didn't have a show last week, right? So
Yeah, I was busy, and I don't know. I need to be more like regular with these shows, but we're here. We missed 1 week. Updated pick tracker. I believe, 33-22 right now. That previous week I went 9-1, and so I got a little excited. Then I went 8-7 last week. I did 15 games. Tyler is still sitting at 20-20 because he didn't get his picks in on time. So
like the Minnesota Vikings forgetting to submit a draft selection and losing a spot.
hey, you said it, not me. But we both done pretty well this week. The games are a little bit, I don't know, slim. You have some teams that have bye weeks this week, so there's always good football on. But before we dive into the week 6 games, we're going to kind of talk about some recap from the week 5 games. Utah and Oregon State played last Friday, and I believe Utah was favored by 3 points. I know Oregon State wasn't favored, or maybe I'm thinking of the previous week. Regardless, Oregon State won 21-7. Utah struggled to score points, obviously, as you can tell, and Oregon State is a pretty solid team.
Yeah, DJ Uiagalelei.
Yeah, he played
great.
He played well. I've actually done pretty well picking the Pac-12 games because the week before they played Washington State, and I was like, oh, Washington State's going to win, and they won that game. So I guess you can call me Pac-12 Joe.
Pac-12 Joe.
Pac-12 Joe. Penn State beat Northwestern pretty handily. Penn State is kind of a fun team to watch this year because they've covered every single game, and I believe the spread was like 25.5 points. And they did like a fake kneel down throw with the backup quarterback, and they scored to like cover the spread. So Penn State is very well aware of the spread, so they've been a team to bet this year for the spread. And then Kentucky demolished Florida. I think running back Ray Davis had like over 200 yards. Number 9 USC up big at halftime, let Colorado back in the game, won 48-41. I was at Auburn, not at the game for this weekend, but Georgia squeaked out a win 27-20. Kansas got demolished by Texas. LSU 49, Mississippi 55 shootout. I'm just going through these, and then we can kind of talk about the games that stood out the most. Tennessee avenged their loss to South Carolina last year, won 41-20. Notre Dame 21-14 over Duke. Washington, close game for your Huskies, and then Bama won pretty handily 40-17 in Stark Vegas. So went through all of them. Kind of give me your thoughts, like which one of those stood out the most to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the biggest ones for me, I'll jump right in. I think Georgia-Auburn was really interesting to me. Unranked Auburn, right? Number 1 Georgia. It's 2 weeks in a row that Georgia's looked very mortal for a team that has aspirations for three-peating. And Auburn almost won. Auburn was winning by 10 points. They kind of blew the lead. They almost won with their starting quarterback having 80 passing yards and an interception and no touchdowns. Like, they almost just Army-Navy'd their way to a win against Georgia. And, Georgia did win, right? Credit to them. They're 5-0. That's what matters. But when's the last time you can think of watching Georgia that their run defense has been so bad that a team almost beats them with 80 passing yards, right? It's kind of crazy. This is not the same Georgia team that we've seen the last couple of years. And I think that we say it every time. Georgia plays a rather weak schedule, so they're not going to get exposed until they sneak into like the playoffs. But then I think once they do, I don't think they're going to win the playoff game. Like if they play like this, they could improve. Right? It's a long season, but right now, no.
Yeah, I agree with you. They have not looked great this year. We saw them down at halftime to South Carolina. They ended up pulling away, winning that game. This week, like I said, I was in Auburn for the game. We had boots on the ground behind enemy lines. I was rooting for Auburn just because I wanted to see chaos, and I was hoping I would get to be there when they rolled Toomer's corner. And I really, up until the fourth quarter, thought it was going to happen. And listen, this Auburn team, at no point until it was like the third, fourth quarter did I think Auburn had any chance of winning this game. I kept an eye on the spread all week. It went to 14.5, went to 14, and then I think late Friday night, early Saturday morning went to 13.5, and I was like, Vegas, and we've always referenced Vegas on this show. Vegas knows what they're talking about, and Auburn played them very close. It's frustrating because Brock Bowers was the difference maker in this game. If you completely remove Brock Bowers from existence, they lose the game. Obviously, you can't do that. He's a phenomenal player. But I just kept sitting there watching the game saying, cover Brock Bowers, double team, triple team him, like make somebody else, make Ladd McConkey beat you. But he just went off. He had like 85 yards, I think, in the second half, and he just had like 23 or 25 in the first. So he was the reason why they won the game. Give Auburn credit, though. I mean, this is probably one of the worst Auburn teams I've seen. It's a very well coached team because I think Hugh Freeze is a good coach, but offensively they did not have much. And it's not like they were running the ball big with Jarquez Hunter. It was the quarterbacks like, Ashford and Thorne that were getting a lot of the rushing yards. So if Georgia faces a team that has a great running game, I mean, this week they play Kentucky. Kentucky has a great running game, or like a team that has a great running quarterback. I think they could ultimately lose. We just keep saying their schedule's weak. I would prefer they had lost to Auburn. It would have been interesting for that, just to be there. But then the more I think about it, I would rather us be the ones to knock them off their high horse if somebody's going to do that. And that chance is out there for sure. I mean, it's a possibility. I don't know how high it is for us right now, but they certainly seem like they're going to end up in the SEC championship game. We just have to take care of business on our end. But they could slip up. They have some tough games this week. Kentucky's tough. Missouri might be a little tough for them. Missouri's a good team this year. And then, you circle that game at the end of the year against Tennessee as a game they could potentially lose. But they won.
Like I said, Joe Milton hater. Not going to believe in Tennessee. Also, obviously, staying in the SEC, I think LSU Mississippi was a crazy game, right?
Oh, yeah.
Super high scoring, 55-49. It seemed like at the end, no one could be stopped. And, ultimately, LSU had a shot right at the end. They drove all the way down the field from the red zone. I think Jaden Daniels couldn't connect on a pass to win the game. And it was super close. It was a really fun game because there was just so much like back and forth. Every time one team would take a lead, the other one would come back. And it seems like it's on brand for a Lane Kiffin offense, Pete Golding defense to have to put up 55 to win by 6, right? So, like, I don't know. Credit to Jaden Daniels. That guy can play.
He's the best quarterback in the SEC this year.
I've become a bigger and bigger Jaden Daniels truther as the more he's played. It started off as like a weird fascination when he was at ASU because he beat Oregon that one week. And that helped Bama like sneak into the playoffs that one year. So I've been a Jaden Daniels fan, and now some of his throws that he made in that game, some of the best throws I've ever seen a college quarterback make. I'm like, I went from thinking that he's just the next he's a dual threat quarterback, like that's what makes him special. He can throw. He's got some talent. I think that he's a name to look out for coming down the line as like the draft gets closer. I think he might sneak up higher than people would think.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he had 414 yards throwing, 99 rushing. So that's over 500 yards of total offense. And then he threw for 4 and ran for 1. So, I mean, he played his butt off. I thought LSU would win this game. I know their defense has been suspect this year, but I expected their defense to be a little bit better. Like I trusted their defense more than I trusted Old Miss's defense. But credit to Jackson Dart for Old Miss. He played really well. We're talking about Jaden Daniels. I'm not a big Jackson Dart guy, but he played his butt off as well. But I also think it helps Daniels that LSU always has great receivers.
Right.
I mean, we know about Malik Neighbors, what he's done this year for them, but Brian Thomas Jr. had 8 catches for 124 yards and 3 touchdowns in the game. So I think also, not to kind of toot Alabama's horn, but I think this really kind of shows how Alabama's defense is turned the corner. I mean,
Right.
Old Miss is scoring on everybody they play, and we were able to hold them to just 10 points. And I think in previous years, Alabama plays Ole Miss, it's a 24-17 game, or maybe even 24-23 with the way that our defense is played and with Pete going to call the plays. So credit to Alabama. I know I don't want to try to make this about them, but that game kind of made me think, hey, this Alabama defense is legit, and kind of makes me wonder when we play LSU at home how that's going to go. Maybe I don't think necessarily our offense is as good as Ole Miss. Maybe by that point it will be, but I can kind of see our defense stifling them and holding them to maybe lesser points. But they do have a lot of weapons, so who knows? I guess we'll see a lot about Alabama in the next couple of weeks. So kind of see how that game will go.
Another game that I want to talk about, you mentioned it earlier a little bit, USC Colorado. USC was up huge, and
I picked them to cover.
Yeah, credit to Colorado. They did lose, right? My prediction at the beginning of the year was right. They'd start off 3-0 and then go 0-2 the next 2. But they made it much more of a game than I thought they would. Credit to them. I really thought this was going to be a huge blowout like last week, and they fought their butts off. I know that Dion played a lot of young players. Well, 2 main ones that hadn't got any play time up to this point, in Amarian Miller, who had 196 yards and a touchdown. He was their offense after halftime. And he played Cormani McClain, freshman corner, came in, played his first game. And I remember he was a big deal because he was like an Alabama target, like one of the top Alabama targets, and then he went to Colorado to be with Prime instead. But yeah, it's just they kept fighting, and Shedeur Sanders he's good. He's pretty dang good. I know. I love talking about quarterbacks, I guess. But
I saw a mock draft to him going to the Vikings. Now I think he comes back for another year at Colorado. I think he definitely comes back. I think he's a good quarterback, but I think the team next year, the team's been great this year, but has a chance to be even better. And I think, he's making a boatload of money playing for his dad. So, that's pretty special.
So, my thoughts on that, though, I think that the risking not be coming back and risking having a bad season or getting hurt or whatever, just so you're the number 1 pick instead of the number 3 or 5 pick or something like that, is kind of crazy to me. I know they don't particularly need the money, but especially if you have any ambitions to be a great quarterback in the league and have a legacy, a lot of quarterbacking is just situation. And I'll say it, most of the time the team picking first is kind of a shitty situation. You look at Bryce Young this year. Bryce Young has been playing. He's been doing everything he can do. Panthers don't have any weapons. They don't have an offensive line. He looks awful. And
Stroud with the Texans has been kind of the opposite, just because he's been put in a better position to succeed with his head coach and with some of the things they've done. So
it's all situational, right? And so I think that Shedeur Sanders going number 3, number 5 to a better team instead of going number 1 to the Bears would be better off for him. I don't know.
That's true, but I will say this quarterback class is deep. Mm-hmm. So if he comes out this year, maybe he's the 5th or 6th quarterback. Whereas, you never really know how it's going to go.
That's
and
true.
Who will officially declare. But from what I've heard and what I've seen from quarterbacks this year, it looks like this class is going to be loaded. So maybe he benefits from coming back and playing another year, and then he's a his stock. I mean, because right now everybody's talking about Caleb Williams,
Right.
Michael Penix, Drake May. I mean, those guys are going to go. Those are going to be your three guys. I mean, they might all go top 10, even top 7. I wouldn't be surprised. And so Shedeur Sanders, for as well as he's played, kind of unfortunately just slides down that list. But I mean, next year, he's probably going to be the guy that everybody's talking about because, I mean, not everybody is going to know about a lot of the other guys. So I don't know. But also, too, and it's different. Like you said, if he gets injured or something, but I do think it is different with the amount of money that you can make in college. I mean, I don't have the exact numbers, but he's probably making a ton of money. But I mean, making money in college isn't the goal. You want to be a pro and make your money that way. But I don't know. It's always I've kind of been peeking at the draft stuff, and this is like got to be a record for all time earliness for me. Usually, I wait till like December to start looking, but I'm just kind of interested to see not really where the NFL teams will be picking, but how the prospects are ranked, because we brought up some quarterbacks there. We didn't even mention, I think Bo Nix has played really well this year. He's not really got a lot of hype, which surprised me. Maybe it's because people don't like him too much, but there's some other guys that have played well that could play their way into the first round conversation.
Yeah, like Ewers, Rattlers had a great year.
I forgot. Yeah, I forgot about Ewers.
And then one final one that I want to touch on before the Alabama game. My team, Washington. No, not my team. Obviously, I do like Washington. It's really funny because my friend, who I always reference, said that he was more worried about this game. Yeah, who supposedly exists. Said he was more worried about this game in the desert than he was the USC game. He said he was more worried about this week than he was at USC because Washington has the uncanny ability to always just lose one random throwaway road game to a Pac-12 team every year. And so it was close, right? They did make it a nail biter, but it wasn't as close as the score indicates. And also they came away with the win, which is important. But I know that Washington fumbled on a wide receiver screen or something on the last drive to put them up 2 touchdowns, and then Arizona drove all the way down the field and got a touchdown and then kicked an onside kick. So again, it wasn't as close as it actually looked performance wise, but Michael Penix continues to do great. Washington might have the second best receiver in college football right now in Rome Odunze. They're just solid at top to bottom. I'm kind of interesting to see next week. I mean, spoiler alert, a little bit of flash forward. They're playing Oregon.
I wonder what the over is tonight game.
Or next Saturday. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm excited for that one. That'll be the first real test probably for both of those teams, I guess. So
I'm not. Penix has played well, and their offense has been great. But I think people are kind of overhyping not just Washington, but USC as far as playoff opportunities and chances of winning the Pac-12. When I look at the Pac-12, just like everybody else, you've got Oregon, you've got Washington, and you've got USC. Oregon's kind of not really being talked about that much. I think from top to bottom, they're the most complete of the 3 teams.
Mm-hmm.
They can score on offense like Washington and like USC, but they actually have a competent defense that hasn't looked perfect this year by any means, but has the capability of stopping. And we saw it when they played Colorado. I mean, USC just won by 7 points. I mean, they let their foot off the gas, but this Oregon team, I think, is very different than previous years' teams with Dan Lanning. I mean, they just have a physical, punch you in the mouth, just kind of suffocate you. Almost, they remind me a lot of maybe Lanning as a coach more specifically. It's like the Detroit Lions do, where they're not going to give you much. Their offense plays well and their defense battles their ass off. Mm-hmm. And that's why I will continue to beat the Oregon drum, and I will continue to have them winning the Pac-12 just because offense is great and it's fun to watch. But you have to have some sort of defense, some way to stop an opposing team that scores a lot of points, and I just think they are the best, like the most well-rounded team of the three. But I don't know. Maybe you've seen it, but I haven't seen many people. Maybe it'll take those games against Washington and USC. Let's say they win both those games for people to be like, "Holy shit, Oregon's a good team."
And then last one before we talk about this next coming week and wrap things up, I do want to talk about the Alabama game. Obviously we have to. Jalen Milroe took over. He had a solid game. I think he looked pretty good. I think that was. Let me look at the final stats because if I remember correctly, they didn't actually throw the ball that much. They
didn't
clicked
at all.
He had like 160 yards or something, more than Kirk Cousins this week, by the way. Kirk had 130 yards in a win, which I think has got to be the lowest in his career. Anyway,
sure.
Yeah, Milroe, he went 10 for 12, 164, no touchdowns. It's what you need him to do, right? You need him to be efficient, be able to pass the ball when he needs to. But also, he did lead the team in rushing. He had that one really nice, long, 40-yard touchdown run.
He is so fast. When he gets going in open field, he is so hard to bring down. Because not only is he fast, but he's just big. So, I mean, you see Jalen Milroe coming at you full speed. You might, ease up a little bit.
One other player that I actually tweeted about because I was so impressed by him, Amari Niblack. Man, he's so good.
I sidebar had been kind of just seeing how my productivity levels have increased or decreased, not using social media during the day. So I didn't see you tweet that, but I'll let you kind of go ahead. I'm also big on Amari Niblack.
Oh, it wasn't anything special. I just was a few brews in at the bar, and I tweeted something about Amari Niblack.
I love you, Amari Niblack.
Not quite that much, but no, he's the complete package. I think last year they used him a little bit, and he was I was super excited last year when they brought him in because all I remembered about him was oh, he's this super good tight end recruit, and then he did what most young tight ends do, which is absolutely nothing. He did nothing last year. Maybe had one catch. But this year, I mean, he's so good on crossing routes. He's fast. He's athletic. He can block. He can catch. He seems like a great team player. I don't remember if it was you that put it like this before. So I might just be quoting you to yourself. But
I'll take credit
he's
if it's
Jaleel Billingsley, but not crazy. Right? He's what Jaleel Billingsley should have been without all the off the field issues. And that's incredible in this modern game. He's such a good modern tight end. And so I don't know. I love watching Amari Niblack play. I think he's a matchup nightmare. I mean, he's not Kyle Pitts, but he's in that next tier of he's going to be faster than a linebacker and he's going to be too big for a corner.
He's that next generation of tight end.
Right.
The one that the guys that everybody covets, like a Pitts or like a Bowers too. Bowers the same way. I mean, Bowers is a unicorn, but kind of just that similar body type and speed and, like you said, just a matchup nightmare. I have some thoughts that I'll kind of add towards when we do the game prediction. I'll split up my thoughts for the game prediction and just the Mississippi State game.
Okay.
I thought they played well. The lack of throwing was a bit confusing to me, but I guess kind of your identity right now is you're going to run the ball. I'm very impressed with the defense. The defense has been so good and night and day better than the Texas game. So they played well. They've got a test this week. Well, I'll just leave it at that right now until we actually talk about their matchup. But I was very impressed with that game. Actually, I'm not gonna lie, it was because I was at Auburn all day and then I came back and I watched 3/4 of the Bama game and I was just exhausted. I was like, I know how this is gonna go. They'll probably get a couple more field goals and they'll win the game, which sounds awful, but I know a couple other people did the same thing. Just those 8:00 games are so tough to stay up for. But Bama looks good. That's all we'll say about that, and we'll kind of just jump into this week.
I have one more, which is that Will Rogers is going to see Alabama in his nightmares because, my God, I think this is probably the last Alabama game in his career.
Yes,
And
he's had like 1 touchdown and 8 picks or something.
1 touchdown. That was the first passing touchdown Mississippi State has thrown against Alabama since, I believe, 2014.
Yeah, I think you're right. I remember.
So, yeah, he had 107 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 picks. That's a brutal game. Anyway, let's talk some quick predictions for this next week.
We got to give our picks.
Picks.
All right, first game. We've got number 23 LSU -4 at number 21 Missouri. I always go back and forth on these games because you look at the spread, you're like, spread's low. It's at Missouri. Missouri Tigers have played well, but I don't think just don't know how they're going to stop that LSU offense. They have home field advantage in their favor, but I imagine their offense is going to continue to dominate like it has been, and they'll get the defense to kind of tighten up a little bit. And as good as Missouri is with Luther Burden, they don't have the weapons in. They just flat out they don't have Lane Kiffin calling plays for them. So I think LSU covers pretty comfortably in this game.
Yeah, I actually in the same mind. I also think that them losing last week is kind of going to be an opportunity for a bounce back. And I think that, yeah, like you said, they just can't really match up against LSU's weapons. They have probably wide receiver 1 next year on Mizzou right now. But, other than that, I just think LSU is probably a better rounded team, which is the funny thing about college football because they're number 23 and Mizzou's actually higher ranked than them. But I think that LSU just top to bottom is probably a little bit better team.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know who calls the plays for LSU, but you got to be so frustrated this year because the offense is doing all it needs to do. The offense looks great, but the defense just hasn't looked good at all. So I think like I said, the defense gets right this game. I think the offense continues to hum along, and they definitely cover. So we're both taking LSU to cover the -4. Next one up, I'll kind of switch it around here if it shows up. Arizona +22 at number 9 USC.
You're going out of order. Threw me for a loop.
Yeah, I got to keep you on your toes. I think USC covers. I think they learned their lesson last week when they took their foot off the gas. Arizona's been a feisty team this year, but they're not offensively as good as Colorado. So it's also at USC. They played at Colorado last week, so I think USC covers the spread pretty comfortably, I'll say. But I'll say for this game, I hate some of these numbers like +22.
Mm-hmm.
I would try and get it at +21. I'm sure you can. I usually buy points, so I would say Arizona or not USC +21 is what I would say.
Interesting. I don't know.
You can go against me. I mean,
no. I think that USC is much better than Arizona. The 22 is so big, but in my head, I'm like, USC can score 50 if they want, right? I'm not sure in that case Arizona's scoring 30. So
could be a look at home game or look ahead game for USC too because they play at Notre Dame next week.
That's fair, but I still think I'm going to take USC to cover pretty comfortably. I mean, as comfortably as you can on a 22-point spread. But
yeah,
I just think that they're top to bottom better, and Arizona used up all their magic last week against Washington, fell short.
You like it at 22, or would you say?
I do. 22? I do like it at 22.
Okay, got you. And then next up here, we've talked about Ole Miss at more than I really wanted to on this show. Blah. But Arkansas +11.5 at number 16 Ole Miss. I've drank the Arkansas Kool-Aid this year, and when they played LSU, they covered the spread. I took them to cover the spread last week at A&M, or actually it was a neutral game. They let me down big in that game. Obviously, there was, I think, a punt return and a pick six is how 14 of those points came for A&M. But in this game, see, I was so ready to say Ole Miss. Let me hear your thoughts on it. I'll let you go because I don't know now. I looked at it and I went, ooh.
So I've said it before. I'll say it again. KJ Jefferson is one player that every time people are always like, this guy's going to break out or, oh, he's so good. I don't see it. He doesn't pass the eye test to me. I don't think he's that great. I think that Ole Miss, especially like coming off of a big win like this last week, sometimes you have that big win hangover, right? but I'm just not convinced Arkansas is that great this year. I know that Sam Pittman, especially, people have been kind of calling for his head a little bit. I think that Lane Kiffin, the school of Nick Saban coaching, has learned to never underestimate an opponent, even if they're not great. I think that they'll be able to bury them by more than 12 points. And I think I like Ole Miss to cover.
Like I said, 14 of those points came from a punt and a pick six. I don't think they're gonna win, but I'll take Arkansas to cover. I don't trust Pete Golding's defense, and I get it at 12 points is what I would like for it. Especially Ole Miss struggled against the run last week, and LSU is not a particularly great running team. And Arkansas, they have a lot of design runs they like to do. So I'm going to take Arkansas to cover at plus 12, but Ole Miss to win. This could be a high-scoring game. And then we've got Notre Dame. This is a tricky one. I don't know. You probably don't know what LV is. It's Louisville. Haha. Number 10, Notre Dame, minus 6.5 at number 25, Louisville. I'll let you go on this one, too, because I'm kind of not sure.
Look, Notre Dame has had some good games, right? I mean, they just beat, was it Kentucky last week pretty handily? Or sorry, Duke last week pretty handily, excuse me. And it was a blue and white team I was thinking about. They put them away. They probably should have beat Ohio State, if we're being honest. They lost on the last play of the game. Probably should have won. I think that they're just one of those teams that's like a next level team up from a Louisville, who's like a solid team this year. I know Louisville's quarterback it's still Malik Cunningham, right?
Jack Plummer.
Jack Plummer now. Where'd Malik Cunningham go?
NFL.
He's on the Patriots. Yeah. So there goes like any credibility I have. I'm just kidding. No, but honestly, I think that Louisville's been pretty decent this year, right?
Yeah, Louisville's great. They're undefeated.
I know that they're undefeated. I just think that like you look at their schedule, right? They played Boston College. They barely scraped by NC State this last week. I mean, they won by 3. And NC State's not exactly great. They only beat Indiana by 14. They've not played a team nearly close to Notre Dame's level, which is funny because like I've been on record saying I always think Notre Dame's overhyped. After that Ohio State game, I started to see the matrix, right? I started to believe a little bit. And so I just think that Notre Dame outclasses them. And I think that Notre Dame covers the 7 points, like wins by 7+ easily.
Yeah, I agree. Notre Dame, I don't like the half numbers, so I'll say Notre Dame -6. Louisville's been great, but you said they haven't played a team like Notre Dame this year. Notre Dame hasn't been pretty, but they found a way to take these teams and score a lot of points and kind of hold them on defense. So Notre Dame -6 would be my pick. We're definitely in the same boat on that one. And then Kentucky -14.5 at Georgia. Let you go again on this one.
That's hard, right? Because any other year, I would be like, oh, this is easily Georgia, right? Because Kentucky, historically, great running team, not a great throwing team. I know Devin Leary's getting some hype. He only had 98 yards last week in their win.
Yeah.
Hasn't been asked to do super that much. Normally I'd be like, oh, Georgia would just stomp them easy, right? But after watching Auburn almost beat them while still thinking they're in 1902 and the forward pass isn't invented yet. I don't know. It's really hard. I think Kentucky covers. I think Georgia sneaks by with another win like they have been all year, but I think that it'll be close. I think Kentucky will be up for a while. I think Kentucky ends up covering the 14.5, but I do think Georgia ends up winning.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's a home game for them, so the crowd is going to be. I don't know. What time is that game? Because that's also curious about that. The game looks like it is at. Oh, my phone's not working, or my computer's being weird. Georgia, 6 o'clock game. I wish this was an early, an 11 a.m. game would be interesting. I'm gonna take Georgia to cover. minus 14 though. I think they're at home. They're going to find a way to pull away. This will be probably a pretty big game for Carson Beck. As good as Kentucky is, it's hard to go into Sanford Stadium and kind of play Georgia close. I don't know who the last person was that would go in there and actually play them close. So I'm going to go UGA minus 14. Colorado, Dion. Still without Travis Hunter, and I think Shedur's a little bit banged up. And Arizona State, the desert, weird place to play. I feel comfortable with Colorado minus 4 though in this one.
I do too. I mean, not that many thoughts. I think that Colorado showed one thing is that they can score. I think that I don't know if Amorion Miller has like the same type of week he did last week, but I think that he's going to continue to play after last week. He definitely earned it. I think that they're going to have another dimension to their offense. I think they're going to be able to score enough to keep, +4. That's like a touchdown. I think they beat Arizona State probably by more than a touchdown in my opinion. So I say they cover.
Perfect. Washington State, number 13 in the country, +3 at UCLA. Part of me wants to just say, like, hey, Washington State money line. I'm going to take Washington State to cover the points. They've played everybody pretty close the last couple of weeks. I think the last 2 games they played have been 3-point games. UCLA is a decent team. I'm not really sold on them, and I'm really buying into the Cam Ward hype. I mean, he's played out of his mind this year, and I don't care that they're traveling to UCLA. So I'm going to take Washington State to cover the 3 points.
Yeah, I mean, I think I got to go with you again. I think that they're just coming off of a big win. Oregon State, right? Beat DJ in Washington, and I mean they've had overall. I reference resume a lot when I'm making my picks, but I just think overall they've played probably some better teams than like UCLA has. UCLA lost to Utah, which is impressive, right? They lost to Utah by 7, only put up 7 points. But I think that overall, I like Cam Ward. I think that he's been good, and I think that in general, I'm more impressed by Washington State's like overall resume. And I think that I know it's in UCLA, but I think that Washington State goes there and wins. So I think they cover.
Yeah, and I'm actually going to change my pick. I'm taking Washington State money line. I was just kind of looking at some of the scores from UCLA this year.
Mm-hmm.
Coastal played them tough. Utah, they only scored 7 against Utah. So I'm going to take them. I'll take a money line. I feel really confident about the way they've played this year. We've got the Red River
rivalry.
Yeah, I don't think you can call it a gun shootout anymore. But this one's always fun. I love when they show the food that they have in the fair there. I wish I could be eating it. But I'm glad someone else is eating it for me because that would probably screw my stomach up. Anyways, number 12 Oklahoma. +5 points versus number 3 Texas. I think this is the first time both these teams have been ranked like in the top 15 in quite some time. Oklahoma has been impressive this year. Texas, we know what they've done. We saw firsthand what they did to Alabama. I'm going to take Texas to cover the points. I think this game will be close, but I just think Texas is better on defense than Oklahoma is, and we know what they are on offense, and Oklahoma hasn't seen an offense quite like Texas. So I'll take Texas -5 covering the points there.
This is just one of those games that happens every year, right? Where logic does not matter. Points are made up. Nothing matters. Everyone's a winner for watching. That all being said, I'm picking Oklahoma money line. I think that Texas has been a little bit better this year. I will admit, it's in Texas.
Everything's bigger in Texas.
Yeah, but none of it matters because the Red River rivalry it's just insane every year. There's always some crazy stuff that happens, and I think that Dillon Gabriel, by the way, was I think the most efficient quarterback in college football last week. Fun fact.
If they win, it'll be because of him this week.
Yeah.
I mean, he's playing out of his mind, which wouldn't surprise me because he's done it all year.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm picking Oklahoma money line.
Fair enough. Saw some people kind of get a little crazy with this next game. Maryland +20 at number 3 Ohio State. 20 points is a lot. And Maryland this year, I believe they're undefeated. They've looked really great. Shout out to little Talia Tagovailoa. Little T, he's played really well. I'm sure he'd really appreciate us calling him that.
Yeah.
Just we're not big time, so just be glad he doesn't. But I like Ohio State. I mean, I've just kind of been waiting for them to don't take that out of context. I don't like Ohio State in general, but I'm high on them this year, and I think their offense still is kind of waiting for that big explosion game, and they've continued to kind of stack the blocks, trending the right direction on offense. So I'm going to take them to cover the 20 points. They're playing at home too. If this game's in College Park on like a Friday night, I would say I'd take Maryland, but these at-home games, kind of similar to the Georgia, it's just so hard. And Vegas knows what they're doing.
Yeah, I'm taking Maryland to cover. I think that Talia's looked pretty dang good this year, and I'm not still like it's funny because like the big three teams, right? Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama. All three of their quarterbacks, I'm just like not sold on this year at all.
And we knew that going into the year.
I know,
but we thought it'd be kind of now. By now.
Yeah, exactly. But still, for all of them, I'm like, are they any good? Like, are they not? I don't know how I feel about Kyle McCord, and so I think that Maryland will keep it closer than you think, and 20 points is a lot. I believe in Maryland to keep it within a two-score game, so I'm taking Maryland to cover.
Last game. Number 11, Alabama is traveling to A&M. Surprised A&M's not ranked. I feel like they should be. Who knows? Maybe after this game they'll be ranked. It started at 2.5, went to 1.5, went to 1. Now it's a straight up pick'em game. Mm-hmm. I just have a weird feeling about this game. I know a lot of people are picking A&M. I like the fight that Alabama showed last week. I like that Saban was pissed off and yelling at everybody. I think Alabama just kind of comes out this game and just they've been punched this year. They've thrown some counter punches. I think they throw a big counter punch at Texas A&M. I don't trust Jimbo Fisher. And this is the point that I've kind of developed throughout the week. Last week, I was like, man, I don't know why Alabama's playing it 8 o'clock. I mean, in Stark Vegas, they've got the cowbells and noise. It's going to be a weird game for a young team. And then this week, I'm like, you know what? I think that game was the best thing that could have happened to Alabama because they knew this week they would be traveling to A&M. A&M's tough environment to play in Kyle Field. They're playing the game at 2:30, which I'm glad it's not a night game. But I think last week's game was a great kind of warm-up game for Alabama because that's a tough environment to play in. Those 8 o'clock games are weird. The cowbell, everything about that game was weird and screamed that, hey, red flag here. Bama, this game might be close. And to Bama's credit, they took care of business. And so this week, I think the young team takes that confidence that they had from last week and they build upon it. And I'm going to pick them to win. And we talked about Amari Niblack. I think he's an X factor. I think he continues to be an X factor for this team. Amari Niblack and then Caden Proctor. Caden Proctor, who was a guy that got a lot of hype, number 1 offensive tackle in the country, struggled the first couple weeks, but he's played really well. And the offensive line as a whole has kind of gelled and came together. Toughest test this week against A&M, but this is a game that Alabama knows they have to win. And if they win this game, they have a pretty solid chance of going undefeated the remainder of the season. So I like Alabama to win. I want to say anywhere between 5 to 10 points, maybe. I mean, I'm really high on them, and I think it's because those 2 X factor guys, Amari Niblack and Caden Proctor. And then one more thing is that I think they've been kind of hesitant to throw the ball because they haven't needed to. They know this week they're going to need to throw the ball. A&M's game plan is going to be to sell out and stop the run. So you'll still get the Milroe runs, but Alabama knows A&M is susceptible to giving up plays in the passing game. So I expect Alabama to pass it a lot more. And I expect Milroe to have a good game throwing the ball to Jermaine Burton and whoever else. Niblack probably too, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to kind of echo some of the sentiments you made, but I think that I believe in Alabama. I'm going to pick them to win. And to just like keep myself from repeating what you just said over and over again, I'm gonna throw out some other X factors that I like in this game, right? I think that Jihad Campbell is going to be a big one because linebacker
I will say that we got an update on both Ferguson and Deontay Lawson, who were presumed to be out for this game, but I guess now we don't know how much they're going to play. But it seems like they're healthier than we originally had thought. So, but Jihad Campbell, like you said, played really well, and so did Tresman Marshall.
I was going to say, even if Lawson does play a little bit, I still think Campbell's going to start rotating in there, and I think that he looked pretty decent, and it's going to be up to him to fill in for Lawson the snaps that he's not taking, right? I do think that it's weird because he's been great the whole year, but Malachi Moore is one of my huge X factors to me. People hated him for 3 years. He's looked like maybe the best player on the defense through 4 weeks so far. He's been so good this year, and he's got to keep that up. I think that Dallas Turner hasn't really been living up to what the hype that he's been receiving. Like, he's supposed to be the next Will. He's not the next Will, but he's supposed to be like the next great, or even like next good Alabama defensive end. I think he's underperformed a little bit. I think we're going to need him to have a good game, especially because A&M has had a stout offensive line for a while now. I mean, you think of last year, we got no pressure on A&M. We need to change that. And then I think on offense, I think a couple of big X factors for me. I keep saying his name every week, but like Malik Benson or Ja'Cory Brooks, we need one of the two of them to step up, because really it's been it's been Amari Niblack, it's been Jermaine Burton, and like those are the only two that have consistently played well. And also I'll throw in one last X factor in there in Jalen Hale. He didn't play that much last week. Didn't get that many targets because we didn't throw the ball that much.
Yeah, and neither did
Isaiah Bond.
No, you just brought him up. Georgia receiver Jermaine Burton. Yeah, Burton didn't play much. I think they've been very conservative with throwing the ball. I mean, they kind of in the Texas game showed that, I mean, they could throw it. They struggled, and I think after that game they kind of just said, "Hey, next couple of weeks, let's focus on our running game, focus on getting the offensive line and Milroe right." And then I think, like I said earlier, they're going to throw the ball in this game. And Burton, they said, was banged up, but I think they've kind of just have been hesitant. I think this is the game that they just unload the bag on A&M as far as throwing the ball.
Yeah.
I like too that you brought up like the secondary. I think the secondary. Look, two strengths of this team this year were supposed to be the offensive line and the secondary, and both first couple of weeks looked shaky. I think now we're at the point where the offensive line, like I said, is gelled together, and then the secondary has been great. Terrion Arnold has been amazing. Kool-Aid's been great this year, and then Caleb Downs, we know how he's been. And we knew this team, it's a young team. We knew it might take them a little bit, but if they could kind of find a way to get to the end of the year with a one loss or no losses, then they were going to be one of the most dangerous teams in college football and could run the table. And this week, like I keep saying, I keep preaching this, if they find a way to win this week, I mean, you still got to play at Kentucky, you got to play LSU at home, and you got to play Tennessee at home, which none of those games will be easy. But I think this is the week that you kind of prove to the country, hey, we're still Alabama. We might have lost to Texas. Yeah. Texas is a damn good team, but we're trending in the right direction and we're stacking those blocks, like I keep saying. I think this is the week, man. I'm really excited for this game. I felt nervous about it early in the week, but now I feel good about Alabama. I just have this feeling that they're going to turn it on and thump A&M pretty good.
Yeah.
Ready to run through a brick wall after that?
Absolutely. I'm
so my desk.
I love me Alabama. Simple as. No, it's like the British thing. They say like.
Okay. I was
love me footy, love me Alabama. Simple as.
Okay, I did not know.
No, that's British. You got to talk to more British people.
But yeah, good show tonight. Glad we could hop on here and talk some football. Excited for the games this weekend. Bama is definitely one of the bigger ones. All eyes are going to be on them, and I think they get it done. But thank you everybody for watching, and have a good night.
Yeah, bye.